Well, how do I explain this to my family? They say I have to go back to my roots, to Christianity. I tell them that I only believe in the Torah, I don't believe in the New Testament. The Messiah we are waiting for, the one I am also waiting for today, what is that Messiah like? The one the Jews are waiting for and the one I am also waiting for.
On the topic of family, it's difficult. When a person leaves idolatry, the first consequence is with family and society. A major example is Christmas. Christmas is the celebration of the birthday of this same idol. Someone who stops believing in him faces the dilemma of wanting to keep monotheism, but also considering family and their practices. It's difficult. That's why I don't even want to put myself in that situation, but a person who leaves idolatry never goes back to it. It's just not something that makes sense to that person.
Very bad connection.
Yes, I'm going to continue this video. Maybe you'll watch it later because we're live. But the person who leaves idolatry does not return to idolatry. Sorry, I'm going to continue in case you watch the replay. And what happens is that when the person manages to reach other conclusions, well, their job is not necessarily to try to impose their beliefs on their family. And the family obviously wants, look, put yourself in the shoes of these parents who have believed in the New Testament and these things their whole lives. And they inherited it too, and they deeply believe that this is the only way for man to be free and all these things. Free from sin, and if not, they'll end up in hell. And they raised their son with these values, and now the son is a traitor and he's going to go to hell. That's why parents are afraid of this. However, this shouldn't be something the monotheist fears. The monotheist should therefore have a lot of compassion for his family. He should have a lot of love for them, love them very much. Even though they still believe in an idea that we know is not correct, the person who has embraced monotheism should truly love them, care for them, despite this ideological difference they have. That's the first thing, okay? Because it's difficult. And honestly, in my opinion, it's more important that he takes care of the family. This thing about being there fighting over religion and arguing with everyone because now everyone is an idolater and believes in the idol, no. You always have to love your family. You can't abandon them. Family are the only ones who will be there for you in difficult times. I'm not talking about you specifically. I mean for humans in general. Only your parents, if they're still around, or your siblings will be there. That's why you shouldn't fight or try to argue and end up losing your family. Just because someone came to a different conclusion about something that's written in a book, it's not a big deal. It's not a crisis. It's not the end of the world. It's very important. And this guides a person and will shape that person's future for the rest of their life, as well as the values they pass on to future generations. That's it. That's all. But that's later. Now, about what we expect from the Messiah, the characteristics are written in our Tanakh. It's the Hebrew Bible. The Messiah has both a father and mother. Not even a demigod born of a virgin or these Greco-Roman mythological ideas. Nothing to do with that. He's simply a descendant of King David. Through the line of Solomon. He's the one who's supposed to bring peace to the world and all these things. Basically, I have several videos talking about this, so I won't go into the topic too much. I have a couple of videos called what we expect from the Jewish Messiah versus the Christian Messiah. Something like that. I'll share it in the description when this video comes out, and basically that's it. But above all, I wanted to touch on the family aspect, which I think is very important. Not many people take it into account because as soon as people feel enlightened, they think they can look down on anyone who doesn't share their monotheistic beliefs. Okay, know this, no hides. Love your families, love your siblings, your parents, whether they go to church or not. There's also the dilemma of whether to cremate a family member when they pass away. And all these things, okay, I understand, but remember that love for your family is very important.
We're here with my partner, and we just recently started following and listening to you. We are Christians, well, we were Christians since birth. We stopped reading it and participating in church, reading the New Testament, and we started to question things in the Bible. And thanks to the videos we started watching from different rabbis, today we understand that we have been living the wrong way. I'm very nervous, sorry, but I really am. And honestly, they took a huge weight off our shoulders. With everything we've learned from what you teach, we took an enormous weight off. You were just talking about eternal damnation. My mom passed away almost 2 years ago. She was a Christian and evangelical. And honestly, it's a burden I carry too, because I wonder where I'm going to see her. I mean, the bond with a mother is hard to break. Nowadays, my dad doesn't have a good relationship with me. It was a Christian church, evangelical too. And ever since I stopped going, well, they call me possessed, that I have the devil in me. I distance myself from them, but well, you were just talking. You were talking about respecting and loving your family. And my question is, what do you do when your family doesn't love you, right? What do we do? Do we distance ourselves or keep going, keep resisting, taking all the blows?
Yes, I understand, but I don't know if this strong reaction, for example, from your father is because he doesn't love you or because he loves you so much that the state of denial is immeasurable for him. You know, I don't want to put myself in anyone else's shoes. I only think about my children, my own children. I raised them and I believe in this truth and I have my arguments and my children. Once it's over, I don't know, turning into whatever, then obviously not the reaction I might have. No, I don't even know how it could happen. First, it's about understanding that non Jews also have a responsibility to their parents. Now, does that mean you have to be begging and you have to be, I mean, it's not your job either. I mean, you have to try to keep the peace. When the opportunity arises, with Hashem's help, may things work out well, and respect for parents is very important. Do we also learn from people who were not Jews? Abraham, for example, was a Noahide. Basically, he was later called a Hebrew, but he was a Noahide. And that's why, yes, it's important. Yes, in fact, we also learn from Noah and his sons. One of the first scenes is when Noah comes out of the ark. It's about the disrespect that Ham shows to Noah and the respect that Shem and Yefet have for him when they cover him because he was drunk anyway. Yes. I mean, parents also do crazy things, like in the case of Noah, who gets drunk, and how do the children react? Yes. But beyond that, I think you should follow your own path. Are you convinced? I told someone else, once you leave idolatry, you don't return. If you've left and understood, keep moving forward. You have your partner and will have your own family. They'll develop new values as your family becomes beautiful. A family that truly has an atmosphere of prosperity, of values, of helping others. This will be noticeable. Their grandparents, that is your father and your partner's parents, if they are still in this world, will notice it. And with God's help, they will be happy in their hearts. I know many cases of people for whom this happened. That the children left idolatry, they fought with the family, in the end they had children, and eventually the relatives came to other conclusions over time. So I don't think everything is set. There are so many possibilities that can happen. So I don't think you have to write off the whole relationship already. That's why you don't have to be begging either. You don't have to grovel since you don't believe in that anymore. Now you're with Hashem and your partner, ready to build something great with Hashem's help. And I also congratulate you a lot for having the courage to say these things, like in front of the camera. It's not easy. And I also ask Hashem to give you a lot of strength. But my best advice, really, is that you get in touch with people who have gone through something similar to what you have. For example, there's something called Noahide communities. I don't know if you've heard this term, the Noahides. They are people who have come to monotheism, have no interest in converting to Judaism, and form groups. And these groups are people who have experiences like yours, and sometimes even more extreme. And many times these groups have this feedback that helps them know how to proceed. Because there are moments, for example, like the case I mentioned earlier about Christmas. It was the time when the whole family would get together, and now the person doesn't think they should gather for this feast. That creates a dilemma because the whole family is there. So what do? Are you really not going to see the whole family once a year? So these kinds of topics can be discussed with Noahide groups. My recommendation is that you don't go through the process alone. You have to know that there are many people going through growth like yours. No, I'm not going to call it a process. It's growth. You are growing. And well, basically that would be it. I don't know if you have anything to say about it.
No, I really appreciate your words. Well, here is my partner Seva too. We're both listening at the same time. Thank you so much. Honestly, it's very enlightening. And at least for me, it calms me down a bit because the situation was really hard for me. I was born in a Christian home and I had the worst childhood of my life. and then realizing that everything I was living was a lie and brought more curse than anything else. It was really hard. It was really hard for me to let go of all those beliefs, but not because I didn't want to, but because I had spent almost 39 years, 35 years of my life, and I'm 39, in a lie since I was very young. I'm telling this quickly because I know time is short. When I was a little girl, I used to tell my mom that the times when Jesus was supposedly born didn't match what the Bible said. And I was always questioning things in the New Testament by comparing them with the Old Testament. And my mom wouldn't let me talk and told me no, that I had to respect what the New Testament said. I always had this curiosity and this uncertainty of whether it was real, whether it was true. And, well, today I realized that no, I should have followed my instinct, but I was little and, well, I had to follow what my parents said.
Wow, impressive. Because you know what really stands out to me is that whenever I talk to people who grew up in Christianity, I'm always surprised by how big the differences are. The first thing we do in Judaism is teach children how to read. My children know verses from the Torah, they know entire chapters of the Torah, and a couple of them are only 3 years old. And what's the first thing that's taught? The independence to be able to access the Bible, that is to learn how to read. Because they're taught to experience the text themselves. Something about this has always seemed really crazy to me. If you go to a house of study, a yeshiva or something like that, you'll see an 80-year-old elder studying next to his 6-year-old grandson. The same book, the Torah, the same text. How is it possible that the adult sees one perspective and the child sees something else in the same sentence? It's a very crazy book, but the emphasis that a Jewish educator will always make is to ask questions, and it says Lo Abaishan Lomed. That is to say, the one who is shy does not learn, which means that the person who wants to learn has to ask questions. If they always try to tell you that you can't ask, because that's what the teacher said, that's what the politician said, that's what the rabbi said. The pastor, it's not just by asking that you learn, and that really surprises me about what you mentioned, because what you want when you teach a child is for them to ask questions. Everything in the Jewish methodology is about asking and questioning. The Talmud is about taking verses and questioning the verses. Did David really do something he shouldn't have? How is that possible? Could it be me? And it's a different methodology. And I'm glad that now you're focusing on how to read the texts that give us, let's say, so much light as human beings. I truly congratulate you and wish you the best as you continue that process with your partner.
Thank you so much.